Now this needs to be said. If nobody's gonna say it, Benedictine the truth is gonna say it. Parents set their children up for failure. Most people who are unsuccessful because of their parents. Most people who are like really suffering. I mean, everyone is suffering because we're in a hell room. But there are people who are suffering worse than others. If life was a UFC fight, their lives would be like a 10-8. Like they are going through hell. Like life is truly whooping their asses. And you think it's their fault. You know, we like to treat people as if they really have that much power. Like things that happen in their lives are the things that they allow to happen. I mean, that's the lie that we need to tell ourselves, because most people are really going through hell. If we were to tell ourselves the truth, people wouldn't even be having children. We'd be like, damn, you know, a lot of people are suffering and it's not their fault. You know, when a child is not able to pass at school, parents are gonna pretend as if that's child's fault. You know, growing up, I used to wonder why teachers would make the kids that you know, are not performing well feel bad for not being able to perform well at school. You can see that the kid is in the wrong place. There's no way they'll be able to perform well. There is no way that they'll be able to. Like, I can see that there's no potential here. But the teachers will be like, oh, it's because you're not serious. Look at Benedict. He got 80 out of 100. Look at you, you got 5 out of 100. I'll be like, dude, I don't even study. I don't even listen to you. You know, I'll be asking myself, where the hell are we when you are, you know, busy teaching the students nonsense? But I'm able to get 80 out of 100. This kid is getting 5 out of 100. Do you really think that there's hope? Do you really think that this kid can be able to get 30 out of 100, 50 out of 100? Like, we need to be honest. So if we were going to be honest with ourselves about how the world works, you know, most people wouldn't even be having children, you know. I mean, why? Why do people even have children? Like, what's the reason? Do people sit down and be like, I want to have a child, and my reason for having a child is so that child will bring change in the world in this way. Like, there's the reason why I'm having the child. Like, people don't even think about it. They just be like, I want a child, and then they have a child. Or they have sex and conceive, and that's it. Like, there's not that much thought put into like having children. You know, we pretend as if we're not creating conscious beings that are going to have a lot of responsibilities in a world that some people choosing to, you know, live, you know, on their own because they're too damn tired. Oh, damn. This almost fell down. I have to put it here. Parents set their children up for failure. Before having them, they don't have a plan. They don't even ask themselves if they have enough money to be able to take care of a child. Just look at other people having children and be like, hey, that person is poor, but they're, you know, raising a child, so that means we'll be able to do it. They don't think as honestly as possible, and it's one of the biggest problems. Like, they don't think that, hey, I'm bringing an innocent being into a world that they didn't ask to be brought into. And in this world, there are a lot of things that really happen that they might not like. In this world, we don't really help one another, unless there's something to gain. If I'm poor, that means that there ain't gonna be that many people who would wanna help my child, because I have nothing to give them in return. When we were growing up, the children of the people who were important in our community, those were the children that were treated right. If your father is not known, if your mother is not known, everyone will treat you like you're trash. And you grow up thinking that you're trash. If your father is a teacher, at least other teachers will treat you well. Now, if you make a mistake, they'll be like, "Yeah, I'll tell your father." But you can see that there's love, But if you're poor, if you don't have shoes, and you make a mistake, they'll be very angry at you. Because teachers are humans, and humans programmed the same way that other animals are programmed. If they don't see you as someone who's important, if they don't see potential in you, if they know that they're not gonna get something good out of treating you good, they're probably not gonna treat you good, right? That's how we are, whether we are old or young, because adults think that they are the real grown-ups, but really people just learn how to behave. That's it. You are what you were when you were a kid, but you've just learned how to behave, because when you're an adult, when you make mistakes, you get punished. Children can get away with a lot of things. They can get away with being mean. They can call each other ugly. They can, a kid can take a stone and hit another kid. They'll be able to get away with that. But as an adult, you won't be able to get away with that. So you'll be like, I gotta behave because there's gonna be consequences. But they're not real grown-ups. So teachers will be mean to the kids whose parents are poor, because there's nothing good to gain from treating them well, and they will treat the kids whose parents are actually doing well in life well, because they know that there will be something to gain, maybe they will love them, or maybe if there's a post where they work, they'll recommend them. So if you're poor, you are bringing a child into your miserable life, because they will have to be, taken care of by you, and you have nothing to offer them. If the world is already whooping your ass and you bring a child into this world, it's most likely that that child is also going to deal with the same problems that you deal with. Life is going to be whooping their ass. A lot of kids who grew up in families that were well off, even if they fucked up a lot in life, they're still doing good, right? Like, they made a lot of mistakes, but they're still doing good. Find that in every opportunity that they were given, they made a mistake, right? Like they screw, the kids who would steal their parents' money, who steal their parents' cars when they were in universities, and their parents send them a lot of money. They will take that money and buy alcohol and drugs, and do whatever they wanted to do. They're still doing well, even though they fucked up a lot. But the kids who focused, or who came from poor families, they're still struggling. And most of them are still struggling. Like if you come from a poor family and you make it, you made it because you were lucky. It's not really because of hard work. It's just that people, I don't know, man, people don't think right. Like you don't realize when you're lucky. Like this is luck. Yes, you might have worked hard, but there are a lot of people who have worked hard and who didn't make it. Some of them became broken, you know. Maybe when you were working hard, there were things that were happening in your life that made you feel more motivated. There are people who work hard, but nothing good was happening in their lives, and they ended up giving up. If there was nothing good that was happening in your life, you would have ended up giving up. Some of y'all were very close to giving up, but something good happened and you ended up not giving up. You could have given up. It's not like you've made it because you were very, very strong-willed. Like, nah. You were just lucky. It's very hard to make it in this realm if you do not have money, if you do not come from a family that is connected, if you do not come from a family that has something to give you. You have to understand that if you were born in a poor family, your relatives don't like you. Your friends, they might not really take you that seriously. Your teachers might not really take you that seriously unless you're performing very well at school, if you're lucky, you know, because not everyone can perform that well at school. I've already given you examples. Society in general isn't going to treat you that well because you're not going to dress well. You're not going to have access to a lot of things that can, you know, make other people take you seriously. You just be this human that everyone looks down on. So you'd have to face challenges that people who come from good families never get to face. You're going to face rejection. You're going to face judgment. You know, I've seen people who come from poor families get judged just because they come from poor family. Like, that person is going to steal. Why did you bring them into our house? Just because they have nothing. Like when they, you know, when they look at you, be like, this person might steal because they have nothing. Like people who are poor really go through a lot. Most parents set their children up for failure, man. Even if they're not poor, you know, to really succeed in this world, it takes a lot. You don't just make it. You know, there are a lot of kids who grew up in good families who never got to make it. You know, they were lucky because their parents had money, so they maybe bought them a house, started a business for them, bought them cars, and some of them, you know, after when they died, they left something for them. You know what I mean? Life is not easy. Not every person can really make it on their own, you know. And when you grow up not having much, you might end up losing hope, right? When you're still young, you might end up losing hope because of the challenges that you've had to face, challenges that a lot of people didn't get to face. You know, you face these challenges and they break you, and you end up not feeling motivated to, you know, do what other people are doing to make it. Because your parents just brought you into this world not really knowing what they were doing, not really having a plan, not even knowing how to raise a child. So not only do they not have resources to raise a child, they don't even know how to raise a child. You know, most people just they just become bigger and bigger and bigger, and they just became bigger. Like they were children and then they became bigger, but they weren't like really raised right. So they don't even know how to live life because they weren't raised right. They just ate food and they became bigger. That's it. They know nothing. They don't know what to do when they have problems. They're just here because their parents didn't know what they were doing. Their parents didn't set them up for success. They set them up for failure, and they don't even realize that. A lot of parents will blame their children for failing, make it seem like it's their fault. Like, oh, you failed, but what have you done as a parent to prepare your child for the challenges that they will have to face in life so that they'll be able to win? What have you done? Nothing. I sent them to school. I gave them money. Like, it's not just about that. There are a lot of things that parents need to do to prepare their child, for the challenges that they'll have to face in this world. You don't just give them food and think they're gonna make it. Yes, if you are lucky as a parent and you have a child who's gifted, then maybe they'll make it even if you just give them food. But most people are not that lucky. That is why most people are struggling. Just because some people have jobs doesn't mean that they're not struggling. Like, they're working jobs that they don't even like. Like, they had to go to school, and that schools are like prisons if you really, really think about it. Like, schools are really, 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 really like prisons. So they had to go and learn in those little prisons that their parents send them to when they're young, and then when they become older they have to work jobs that they don't like in order to survive. You're like, what? So we bring children into this world so that we'll send them to little prisons where they'll learn how to work, and then they end up working until they become older, until they can't really do much. When you're like 60, you're no longer in your prime, right? You're no longer in your prime. Like, your best days are gone. If you're a man, your sex game ain't that, ain't what it used to be. You no longer have that excitement that you used to have. You no longer want to like travel. You no longer want to party. You no longer, like, you don't have the energy for most of the things that people do to enjoy this, like their experience in this realm. This is when they'll give you some money, but like, yeah, here's your money, you've worked, now you can rest, because they no longer need you. They need your children, they need your grandchildren. Most parents set their children up for failure, man. They experience hardship in this realm because of their parents. It matters how you raise your children if you have children. It really, really, really does matter. If your children fail, it's 100% your fault. Even if you've tried to, set them up for success, it's still your fault. You should have only had children if you knew for sure that you're going to be able to raise them the way that they need to be raised to become something and to actually enjoy this experience. Because that's really what matters. You cannot say that you're having children so that they will come here and suffer. Like, there's no logic in that. Damn, it's hot. So I drink a lot of water today because it's hot. You know how hard it is to make money? If you're born in a poor family, you don't have anyone to ask money from. because your parents don't have money. So you have to build everything from the ground up. You didn't have a good start. So not only do you not have money, you didn't even have a good start. Because to have a good start, you needed good parents. So you didn't have a good start, you do not have money, and you have to make it in this realm. So that you don't suffer worse than your parents, thought you would suffer. Because here's the thing. Everyone knows that life is suffering, right? Like, I don't think there's a human being who doesn't know that life is suffering. When they bring children into this world, they already know that their children are going to suffer. But they don't hope that their children suffer like worse, like to be at the bottom, They'll be like, yeah, you will suffer, but I want you to suffer, in a mansion. Like, that would be dope. Cry in your Beamer, that would be dope, Crying next to a baddie, that would be dope. It's not like parents be thinking that their children are gonna end up alone, living in a shack, driving a car that shouldn't, even be on the road. Like, no parent really think that, but they set their children up for that. Children end up not really having a choice because everyone wants to succeed, right? Everyone wants to succeed. So those who didn't succeed not because they didn't want to succeed, but because they weren't raised the way that they needed to be raised to be able to succeed. They weren't prepared for this, the right way, and that is the problem. The whole thing is rigged. When you really think about it, it's rigged. Like, you actually be able to tell who is gonna make it when they're still, like, who's likely to make it. Let me put it that way. When they're still young, like, who really has a chance and who doesn't really have a chance. You can actually be able to predict who's gonna be able to do well because of how they are raised, because of what they have, because of how they are being treated when they're still young, because that really does matter too. Like, if you're not being treated right when you're young, that can break you. There are people who are actually capable of making it now, but because of how they were treated when they were kids, they're unable to act in ways that are going to allow them to make it, right? They're traumatized, they're scared because they weren't raised right. But there's some people who they're not really good at anything, but they were raised right, so they have the right mindset, so they end up actually doing well because they don't have the like baggage that's holding them back. So really, people who are suffering because of their parents. Their parents brought them into a world that they didn't consent to be brought into. They didn't know enough about the world to even bring a child into it. They didn't have resources to raise a child the way that a child should be raised. Life was already whooping their asses. So obviously their children will have to deal with what they are dealing with. They weren't intelligent enough to actually be able to teach their children something. So, of course, their children would suffer, right? It's rigged. What were they going to do? Rely on luck? Rely on God? There's a reason why most people who are poor are religious. Like, I don't have a choice in life. Maybe I should pray to the higher power, because what can I do? What can I do? So maybe I should pray to God. I gotta believe in miracles. If you don't have a choice, you gotta believe in miracles. You're desperate. If you're an atheist and you're really, really, really sick, don't believe in God, but you're really, really sick, and they brought a pastor to pray for you, you probably allow that pastor to pray for you. And you don't know what to do. You're like, hey man, I gotta believe in miracles. Like that's the only thing that's left now. What can I do? So that's the reason why people who are poor believe in God. Most people who are rich don't even believe in, except for the ones who depend on other people for their wealth, right? They're like, hey, it is cool to believe in God, so I gotta tell people that I believe in God. Like someone like Trump, for example. But yeah, I gotta believe. Like if a person doesn't really believe in God and they say they believe in God, you can see it. You can say it. Nah, they don't really believe in God. So it's people who feel like they don't have a chance in life that believe in God. They hope that God helps them, because they've, like, you won't pray for something that you can get. Like, in order to hold this, I don't need to pray. I don't pray. But if I was a Christian, I wouldn't pray. Like, yeah, God, I want to be able to hold this. I know I can hold it, so I don't need to pray. So it's when people are truly helpless, they don't know what to do. Like, they can't get anything that they want. So it feels impossible. So they need God to help them, because they found themselves in a really, really bad situation where they truly, truly need help. The streets are full of people who weren't raised right. They're not full of people whose parents knew what they were doing. No, the streets are full of people who weren't raised right. People don't know how to raise children. They don't even understand the human mind. Right? They don't even think that deeply. I actually do think that philosophy should be taught in schools. I do understand that a lot of people don't think that deeply, but at least they will be able to understand some things that they need to understand. If they don't, if philosophy is not taught, then they won't even be able to ask themselves the most basic questions about life. That is why people don't even ask themselves why they should have children in the first place. They just believe that they must have children. How many children did you make? I'm thinking of making 5. And you approach them like, why do you want to make 5 children? They don't have an answer. They don't know why they want to have 5 children. Like, they don't have an answer. They just grew up in a society where everyone was having children, so they're like, hey, I gotta have children. People don't realize that the biggest cause of the problems that we have is people making babies without even knowing why. Just because they can make babies, they just make babies. They don't care if they live in a country where there isn't enough resources. They don't care. They don't care if they're already starving. They don't care. They don't care if they're homeless. There are homeless people who have children. They don't care. And we like to pretend as if humans are better than animals. You have to understand that of all the things that we can create, even though we don't really create humans, we just have sex and they're born. But of all the things that we would seem to be able to create, a human is the most complex thing that we can create. So if to create something you need a reason, shouldn't you have a reason to like create a person? You don't create things without a reason. But when you create new consciousness, you don't care if you do not have a reason. You just have desire to create new consciousness, and that's it. The fact that we don't question the ethics of having children is scary. We just assume that each and every consciousness that would have to experience this will actually, conclude that it was, best for it to kind of like, experience this. And if it feels like it isn't, if it feels like, nah, there's something wrong with this film, there's something wrong with it. That shows me that we don't think. That's one of the biggest problems. Human beings do not think. I've been telling y'all that the only way to get to the truth is to think as rationally as possible. And we need to think as rationally as possible about everything, right? Not just some things, everything. Especially things that involve other people. Maybe I might not think deeply about my future, what I'm going to do in my life, that's fine. But if my future involves another person, then I need to think deeply about it, because if I don't, another person might suffer because I don't think right. We live in a world where most people are suffering because people don't think right. And they're being blamed for their own suffering. Like, it's your life. It's your life. Your life is your responsibility. People were born into a cult where they have to follow some rules that other people have come up with. These rules have worked for them. So they have to follow the same rules, even if these rules don't even work for them. That's the kind of world that we live in. That's the kind of world that we bring our children to come and live in. So if they're not suited for this kind of rules, then they will suffer. right? If you're brought into a world that doesn't play by your rules, you'd have to suffer. The people who are going to enjoy life in that world are the people whose character like complement the rules, so they find themselves like really enjoying the experience. But you, if you're so damn different that you don't fit in, then you find yourself suffering. But people don't really ask themselves why they should be having children. They just think that it is obvious that that is the right thing to do. People don't even ask themselves if this realm is good. I know people who have never asked themselves that question. Are we having a positive experience? They don't ask themselves that question, and that's a very important question, because you're having an experience. Is it a positive experience or a negative experience? Are you here for a good reason or a bad reason? Were you brought here by a malevolent being, or by what's the word? Benevolent or malevolent being? People don't ask themselves these kind of questions. They just live their lives. The scariest thing ever, man. People are not scared to pass on their inferior genes to their children. If I know that, hey, man, I'm not that good looking. I'm not the best human here. If I have a child, the child might end up going through hell. They ain't scared to have children. You know they're sick. Like they have diseases that can be passed on to their children, but they don't really care. You know, if we were created by aliens, I don't think they wanted each and every, human to reproduce. They wanted the strongest, the healthiest to be the ones who are reproducing. It's just that they put the desire in us to, make babies. So we don't look at our situations. I don't look at myself and be like, man, but I'm not really healthy. I'm not really attractive. Like, I'll just fight to reproduce, because, well, it's possible. Even if the world is telling me not to, because the world will tell you not to. I'm not saying we're having a positive experience and if only those who are healthy, if only those who have money had children, would like, that's when we'll realize that we're having a positive experience. The reason why there's so much suffering in the world is because, well, people who are poor, people who don't know how to take care of children, people who are not healthy, people who are not doing well are also having children. It's a hell realm. But if we really thought deeply about the implications of having children, then we'll make this experience less hellish. We're making things worse for ourselves by not thinking right. Now everyone can reproduce, but they bring the children into a world to fail, because they don't know what they're doing. They don't really have what it takes to raise their children, the way that children should be raised. They're not honest with themselves. We live in a pro-natalist society. We live in a society that tells everyone that they must have children. We live in a society that Give people compliment for having children. Society doesn't care if you don't have anything. They'll give you compliments for having children. You could be a 40-year-old man who doesn't have a job, who drinks a lot. I have nothing against drinking. Who drinks a lot, doesn't have a future. Like that's like they just wake up in the morning, go to drink, come back home tired, sleep, wake up in the morning, go to drink, come back home tired, and maybe fight with their parents because they're still living with their parents. There's nothing wrong with living with your parents, but isn't it worse to be, having children if you're still living with your parents? You could be that guy and the whole world is gonna be like, oh, congratulations. And congratulations for bringing another soul to be tortured here. Congratulations. We live in a pro-natalist society. Well, what you must understand is that the world is unforgiving. If you bring a person into this world and that person doesn't have much to be able to succeed, the world is gonna use dead children. You know what I mean? The world is gonna use your children. For its own benefit, right? The world is gonna use your children for its own benefit. Your children are gonna be the ones who are cleaning people's toilets. Your children are going to be the ones who are cleaning up the streets. Your children are going to be the ones who... And there's nothing wrong with hustling, by the way. I'm not saying you mustn't clean toilets if you're trying to survive. But I'm saying that if you had better parents, you wouldn't find yourself in that kind of a situation. Because they would have put you on, they would have given you the resources that you need to actually make it in life and have a better experience, suffer less, because obviously you don't want to suffer more than everyone. You don't want to be at the bottom, because when you're at the bottom, you suffer more. If you don't have money, people don't treat you well. People look down on you. So you find yourself working a shitty job and people are looking down on you. People are treating you like you are nothing. They don't care about you. If you are a guy, no woman want to date you. Even if she does want to date you, her friends are going to laugh at her. Be like, you dating that guy? Isn't it the guy who cleans toilets? The world is mean. The world is cold. Doesn't really care about anyone, really. But if you are doing well, of course the world is going to treat you like you are doing well, But if you stop doing well, the world is going to treat you like trash. There are people who are lucky enough to find themselves doing very well, but they ended up losing everything, and the world doesn't care anymore. There are many celebrities who used to be very popular, who used to have a lot of things, who live in the street now in South Africa, and people just laugh at them. Like, that one used to be an actor. You remember? Man, I used to be his biggest fan, but look at him now. He's in the street. They don't care. They have money. They could help that person, but they don't care. It's the kind of world that we live in. I was telling someone this yesterday. I was like, What a lot of people do not realize is that no one is really loved, right? No one is really loved. And I've been saying this. I was saying that people love how they feel about you, like how you make them feel. That's it. It's all about what they can benefit. So, yeah, if you're doing well now, yes, people are gonna love you. If you end up not doing well tomorrow, people ain't gonna love you. That's how we are. We can't help it. We just, program that way. It's part of our nature to want to be with the people who can help us, the people that we can benefit from. There's some people you can benefit by just being in their lives. You know that, like, there's some people you can benefit by just being in their lives. And even if they're not really giving you anything, by just being with them, you can actually benefit. Let's say you have a friend who's very popular, but just being with them, you can benefit. You find that you are being treated well because you are with a person who's famous or who's popular. So yeah, people will want to be around you because you are doing well, because you are popular, because you are famous. People will want to be around you because you have connections. But if they cannot benefit from you, then they don't give a shit about you. They don't even help you when you need their help. That is why when you're at the bottom, like really, really at the bottom, that's when you are like truly alone. That's when you really learn about the world. You realize how the world really works. And you become wise. If you've never been at the bottom, you might actually end up being used by a lot of people without even realizing that you're being used, Maybe that's that's good. That's why some people say ignorance is bliss. Maybe that is good. But you might end up making a lot of mistakes because you don't see things as they are. So it will be much better, in my opinion, to see things as they are, so that you will make the right decisions. People won't suffer because you are making the wrong decisions. The world that we're a part of isn't what we think it is. It's a very cruel place. That only cares about you when you have something to offer. If you're truly at the bottom, man, no one cares. That's why we don't care about homeless people. We pass homeless people as if they don't even exist. You even forget that you passed the human. You can pass a homeless person who's in the street begging for money and forget 5 seconds later that you passed the homeless. They're invisible, right? They're invisible to many of us. But those who are doing very well, you'll think about them. Even when you sleep, you'll be thinking about them. Like, today I saw this person, they have a lot of money, they're driving, you're going to be thinking about them. You see how cruel the world is. So it is very illogical to bring someone into this world when you have nothing, because you're putting them at the bottom and they'll have to go through hell when they're still young. And trauma does affect us when we're older. That is why most people who have been through a lot when they were young, it's hard for them to cope when they're older. Even if they find themselves doing well when they're older, they still can't heal from the experiences that they've had when they were young. There are people who have limiting beliefs because of what they experienced when they were children. I know a lot of people who, with limiting beliefs, they are capable of things that they don't know they're capable of because they have limiting beliefs. It has to do with their childhood. It has to do with how life treated them. The whole thing is rigged. Another thing that you must realize is that no one has free will. That's another thing that you must realize. We are a product of our genes, circumstances, and tradition, right? It's about how you experience life. It's about how you are as a person, It's about where you grew up, how you were raised, your culture. All of it counts. It's not like you can make yourself forget everything that you think you know, and start over. Or maybe forget everything that you think you know and for a while, and then do something new. Like it doesn't work that way. Every decision that you make is caused by your previous experiences. It has, like, we're victims of causality. It has to do with what's in your memories, what you know or what you think you know, what you've been told, how you have been programmed. That's why Hobson said, you think you're original, you ain't original. You were programmed to be you. You're a slave and you don't even know it. The shit you think of ain't even your thoughts. Just step out of the box for a minute. You were programmed to be you. It's funny when people defend beliefs that they were programmed to believe. It's so funny. You're like, what are you really defending? Because that's not you. It's like they when you were young, they made you wear something, and you're like, this is what every human being must wear, because they gave me this thing. Like, nah, it's not yours. It's not what you came up with. You've just been programmed, and I keep on telling you all that human beings are programmable. It's very easy to program a human, the same way that you can program a robot. In fact, humans are the easiest to program. That is why we are we're the ones who are working, It won't be easy to program a dog. It won't be easy to program a monkey. But human beings, they're the easiest to program. You can make them perform complex tasks, because of how you program them. So they're very easy to program. That's why we sit in computers now. I mean, sit on a desk and, face a computer and start typing some stuff for 8 hours a day. Because we're very easy to program. We think that is life. That should tell us something. There needs to be honesty. When we look at life, there's no other way, man. If we're going to continue to lie to ourselves as a collective, we'll keep on making stupid decisions. I genuinely think that we can minimize suffering, by asking ourselves why we should be bringing new people here. Like, we can truly minimize suffering. there's no wisdom in bringing more and more people into this world while there are many people who are suffering. Even if Earth was a school, like some people believe that Earth is a school. Even if Earth was a school, it doesn't mean that it should be overpopulated. Have you ever been in a classroom where there's just so many people? Like what they end up learning nothing. How do we even learn when there's too many of us and there isn't enough resources? You don't learn in scarcity while you're trying to survive. That's not how you learn. How do you learn when you're hungry? Is that what you here to learn? To be hungry? To live in scarcity? Live in poverty? No, you learn when your stomach is full and you're not worrying about survival. That's when you actually learn. That's when you have power to actually make decisions. But if you're still hungry, you gotta eat, bro. You gotta eat. So you don't got time to have compassion. You don't got time to think about philosophy and try to really understand why you're here. You think about food. You want food. People ain't learning nothing from waking up in the morning and going to work jobs that they really, really hate. They're not learning anything. If they quit their jobs, they know they're going to be hungry. They know they're going to starve. And some of them already have children that they are supporting, even though they're not even making enough, but they still got to support them, of course. So they got to keep on working their jobs that they don't even like. And set their children up for failure because they have nothing to teach them. They can't even be there for them because when they get back home, they're tired. So they just send them to school like, hey, go and learn so that you make me proud. What do you think they're learning? You put them in a one-size-fits-all school where they are being programmed to be something that they might not really be naturally good at being. It's a fish being taught to fly type of situation. Isn't that slavery? And when you think about it, doesn't it seem more like slavery? Because really, if human beings were slaves, they would be allowed to be themselves. You grow up, they allow you to choose your own path. What are you really interested in? Not to be forced to go to some class and be taught what everyone is being taught so that you will have a job in the end. That is obviously slavery. They just train you to become a slave, and you think that is cool because your parents were taught the same things. When taught to think rationally, most of us can't really think. If you've had real conversations with people, you realize that most people do not think, bro. They don't know how to think in ways that are actually effective. They don't know how to get to the truth. They don't know how to see things as they are. So they don't see that there is something wrong with most of the things that we are supposed to be doing as humans. Because they don't think right. It's like a person who doesn't understand mathematics. You give him a problem to solve, a problem that's unsolvable. They might not even realize that it's unsolvable. They won't even know what they're doing because they don't understand math. That's how Human beings are, like, they don't know how to think, so they just, they don't realize that the things that they're supposed to, be doing are, don't really make sense. So obviously we'll end up with a world like this, where people are being controlled, where people don't know what they're doing, where people are giving labels to things that they don't understand, where people pretend to know what is going on, where people believe in religions that really, really do not make sense, where people defend these religions, where people unalive other people over these religions. It's ridiculous when you think about it. When you think deeply about it, you're like, dude, ain't no way I'm going to make my child have this experience. No way, like, that will be ridiculous. Thank you all, guys.